Here is why every single one of you watching this video should learn sales. Because when you learn sales, you learn many different skills that you wouldn't have learned unless you did sales. Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, I started off my business journey, my business career in sales. And something I learned as I was doing more and more selling was that everything revolves around sales. Every business relies on sales, your ability to close deals, your ability to persuade people to take action. So, I've got three main points written down. It'll help you stop caring about rejection. It makes you a better communicator, and every business revolves around sales. So, these are the main 3 points I want to discuss with you. The first one is dealing with rejection. I genuinely feel like everything in life is just a numbers game. If you want to get a girlfriend, if you talk to 20 girls, I guarantee one of them will like you enough to want to be your girlfriend. I believe if you want to, I don't know, win the lottery, if you bought a billion different tickets, you would win the lottery. Now, obviously, it's not realistic to buy a billion different tickets, which is why you shouldn't enter the lottery. But the point is, everything can be sorted. Everything can be accomplished with enough volume. If you want to be insanely good at something, if you put in 10,000 hours, you're going to be a master at that thing. Everything is just based on numbers. Enough volume will fix any problem. So, what's so good about sales is that you learn to deal with rejection. You stop caring after a while. You realize, well, I don't really care about getting rejected. I don't care if someone, you know, ends the phone call, slams the door in my face, doesn't respond to my email, doesn't respond to my message, ignores me completely, tells me to go away, blocks me. I don't care. And I learned this especially from door to door sales because in door to door sales, you're talking to someone face to face. You become very good at understanding people's body language. You become very good at understanding the tonality in their voice. You become very good at understanding if someone's serious about buying or not serious about buying. You become very good and very aware of all these little changes in their body language, in their voice. Maybe you can tell you can tell when they start to get a bit annoyed. You can tell when they start to get a bit frustrated. You can also tell when they're losing interest. You can also tell when they're gaining interest. And then you can adjust your pitch. You can adjust what you say based on the reaction you see in them. But anyway, that's a different point. The point is you stop caring about rejection. After the first time someone slammed the door on my face, I was like, whoa, that was crazy. Why are they so rude for? But then when it happened two more times, three more times, four more times, I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Who gives a shit? Who cares? If I didn't knock on that door, I would have made zero money. If I knocked on that door and they rejected me, I would have made zero money. So it doesn't matter. Like either way, just pretend you never knocked on their door. Who cares? People take rejection too seriously, but what helped me get over rejection was just telling myself I'm one step closer to a yes. Every no is one step closer to a yes. There's only so many messages you need to send. There's only so many calls you need to make. There's only so many outreach messages you need to do. There's only so many doors you need to knock on. There's only so many videos you need to make on YouTube before you make a sale, before you get a certain result. So just count down the no's until you get to that yes. I worked out that on average, every 20 or 25 doors, I'd make a sale. So I just tell myself, okay, this is just one of those no's that will help me get to a yes. I can only get a yes after 25 no's or 24 no's. So I was happy about a no because I knew without no's, I could never get a yes. You know what I mean? If I only knock on one door for that day, I'd never get a yes. But I had to knock on 24 on average before I got a yes. That's how it worked. Every 25 doors, that's when I'd get a yes. So I told myself, well, it's expected to get a no. I'm supposed to get rejected. I'm supposed to not make any money or sales until I've knocked on 25 doors. Then I can start expecting a sale. So when I got closer to number 25, I'd actually get excited. I'd tell myself, wow, okay, like I'm about to make a sale now, and I'd get excited. Then I'd have even more energy. And then I'd close on one. Then I start knocking on more doors. No, no, no. And I was telling myself, it would be nice to get a sale right now. But you've knocked on 29 doors, Hassan. You've made one sale. Like you're on par right now. You're on average. This is how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have made more sales than this. Then I carry on working, carry on working, carry on knocking on doors. Then I make another sale. Maybe this time I do it on number 42, door 42. So now I'm actually ahead of my average. I'm 8 doors ahead of average. So now I expect some more no's. I might get rejected now for the next 30 doors, then get a sale. Then that's 3 and 72, which is perfectly on average, right? Slightly better than average, but you get the point. So sales helps you get over rejection. The reason why I've been so successful with social media and I've posted so much content, 44,000 times on Twitter, 8,000 voice notes on my Telegram, 8,000 pictures and videos on my Telegram. That's already 60,000 pieces of content there. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, hundreds of times on each of those platforms. The reason why I've been able to post like 60 or like 70,000 pieces of content is because I've not taken any piece of individual content as that serious. If this video gets 10 views, I genuinely don't care. I know those 10 people got value. And what did it cost me? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? It doesn't matter. You never should be attached to the output. Focus on the input. You should be focused on the input. Only care about the input. Make sure the input is sorted. Make sure your work ethic is fine. Make sure your work ethic is on point. And then your output will take care of itself. But most people are too attached to the output. They're like, where are my results? Where are my subscribers? Where are my dollars? Where are my sales? Where is my this? Where is my that? Who cares? You get the Richard Mille, you get the nice watches, you get the nice cars, you get the money in life after you do the input. Do the input first. Same thing with my sales team. I wouldn't sit there and think to myself, why are these guys not making sales? It's been 4 hours, no one's made a sale. I'll sit there and think, if I do this many phone calls with these sales guys, they will make this many sales. This guy on average makes this many sales. This guy on average makes that many sales. This guy closes a sale 1 in every 30 doors. This guy closes a sale 1 in every 40 doors. This guy, how many doors has he knocked on? Okay, let me ask him today. How many doors has he knocked on, bro? 10. Well, he's not supposed to make a sale then. He's done 10 doors, and on average, it takes him 40 doors. So, of course, he's not made a sale. So my job as the leader is to basically motivate this guy and inspire this guy so that he knocks on 40 doors. Because if he says knocking at 10 doors, it's going to take him 4 days on average to make one sale. This guy makes a sale every 30 doors. It's going to take him 3 days of knocking on doors if he knocks on 10 doors a day. So the most important thing is we get these guys knocking on more doors. Focus on the input. Focus on what we can control. And let's say we have a day where we knock on lots of doors and we don't get any sales. Well, then that's just a bad day. You get unlucky. But the whole point of having an average of 1 in 20, 1 in 25 is that on average, over a large enough sample size, it will work out to be 1 in 20, 1 in 25. So even if you knock on 100 doors and you only make 2 sales, which is an average of 1 in 50, over the next 100 doors, you're going to make enough sales to balance out the average, or the next 200 doors. So as long as you focus on the input, as long as you focus on the daily work you need to do, as long as you focus on your habits, your work ethic, everything else will take care of itself. Okay. The next reason why I like sales is it helps you with communication. When you're selling anything, you learn the importance of communication. You learn the importance of tonality. You learn the importance of speaking well. If you don't speak well, you don't make money. It's really that simple. If people don't trust you, if people don't understand what you're trying to say, if you don't convey your idea very well, you won't sell. You won't get people to understand what you're saying, and you won't be able to move them. You won't be able to persuade them. You won't be able to get them to buy, get them to sign up to this email list, get them to do this, get them to do that. You won't get people to take action unless you say things with conviction, unless you explain things well, unless you get your ideas across. People who are bad communicators can't get their idea across. But in sales, you learn how to get your ideas across. So it's very important. And the last point I want to talk about is how every business in the world revolves around sales. Whether you want to be a fitness coach, whether you want to be a YouTube thumbnail designer, whether you want to be an editor, whether you want to make websites, whether you want to be a copywriter, every business on the planet revolves around sales. Whether you want to do e-com and you want to have suppliers in China, every business revolves around sales. If you can't communicate with your business partners, employees, you're not going to make money. If you can't communicate on social media to the people watching your content, you're not going to make money. If you can't communicate with your business partners, you're not going to make money. You need to be able to communicate your ideas. You need to be able to close deals. Both of them are just as important. But you need to be able to close deals. Like the bottom line of business is selling people stuff. This energy drink company would make no money if they couldn't sell. This microphone company would make no money if they couldn't sell. Everything is just your ability to close deals. So if you don't know sales and you don't know how to close someone, you're not going to make money. You could be the best web designer in the world. If you don't know how to hop on the phone with someone and convince them or show them why they need your product, you're not going to make money. If you're very bad at sales, you talk too much on the sales call, you don't ask them any questions, you don't discover their pain points, you don't handle their objections, they're not going to buy. And you guys can sit there and pretend that sales doesn't matter, but I'm telling you, I'm actually telling you guys that it's the most important thing. Everything stems from sales. They say 80% of billionaires have a background in sales. My background is in sales. It's so important. And it's such a big difference in the people I know. Even in my private community, the people who have a background in sales or currently doing sales versus the people who have no background in sales, I really think it's such a difference in people. The people who have done sales, they're always my favorite people to talk to. They understand how to communicate. They understand the art of communication. It's arguably the most important skill in the world. Everything is just people talking. Everything in this world is just people talking. If you don't know how to get your ideas across and you cannot talk effectively or communicate effectively, you're useless. You're useless as a person. Everything is your ability to negotiate, talk, display value, present ideas. You selling and you marketing your product is you displaying your ideas and displaying your value to the world, to the market, and the market decides how valuable that is. If you can't do that, you won't make any money. So if you're a young guy watching this right now, or you're someone who wants to level up, you're someone who wants to get serious about their life, learn sales. Do not neglect this. Inside of my coaching, we have online sales jobs that we give people. If you're looking for an online sales job, we can provide you online sales jobs inside of my private community. If you're looking to learn sales, we teach sales inside of my coaching. We can help you. But even if you want to have your own personal brand, you want to build your own social media, you want to post content about a certain niche, if you want to make money, you need to learn sales. Because the difference between having like a 10% conversion rate, for example, and a 30% conversion rate is so much. Maybe this is an example, a story for another day, but the difference between being good at sales versus bad at sales is so much. It might be a 10x difference in profit. Even though it might be a 3 times difference in revenue, it might actually end up being a 10 times difference in profit, right? Let's just say you make 100K in revenue. And let's just say, for example, the profit is 20K. Okay, so 100K, 20K profit. Okay. But let's say you make 300K now. You triple your revenue because you're way better at sales. You get 3 times the revenue. But now your profit isn't necessarily, again, a fifth of the revenue, which would be 60K. But 100K, 20K profit, 300K, it doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be 60K profit. Now your profit might be 200K and your costs are only 100K. In this case, your costs were only 80K. Maybe your costs only go up by 20K, but you make way more money. Does that make sense? So even though your revenue is only going up by 3, your profit is going up by 10 just because you got better at sales, just because you increase your conversion rate. That's how important it is to know sales. And you can change the example. You can say your revenue only went up by 1.5 times. It only went up by 50%. But your profit can go up by 300%, 400%, 250%, depending on your business and whatever. But being good at sales is sometimes the difference between succeeding in business and your business making millions versus your business failing and completely collapsing. Because sometimes you really need cash. You're strapped for cash. You really need money to keep the business going. And your ability to close a deal, your ability to close someone for 5K, 10K, 3K, 1K, however much you charge, is what's going to keep your business running. And that's what's going to get it through those tough stages. And if you don't have that cash flow or the ability to just produce cash and invest it in employees or ads or whatever you need at that time to grow that business, you're going to be cooked. You need to know sales, boys.